later on today. So if you want to go back and reference anything that's covered during the session, feel free to do so. Also attached to that recording will be a brief survey. We value your opinion as students and alumni here at WGU, so we are certainly looking for your feedback. If you could take the time, just fill that out, that would be fantastic. The session is one piece of a greater event that we are holding here in Career and Professional Development, which is Career Quest. So if this is your first event for Career Quest, welcome. Maybe you've attended some of the other sessions that we've hosted. Either way, certainly thank you for participating. We will be running another Career Quest coming up in the spring, so keep an eye out for that as well. The chat is open, so if you do have questions throughout, you can certainly ask those questions in the chat. I will allow people, when we do get to the Q&A session, you can unmute yourself and ask any questions to the presenters that you might have. So feel free to do so. And from here, what I will do is I will pass it over to Highline Public Schools. Guys, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you, RJ, and welcome everyone to Highline's information session. Really, our goal with this today is just to give you some general overview of who we are at Highline, kind of our values, our promise, our strategic plan, and then we'll go into a little bit more of our hiring process and different ways to kind of come in to Highline as an employee. We'll go through a brief application overview as well, and then have some time for questions. So feel free to ask along if you'd like, but we will have some time at the end for that as well. All right, so we'll start with some general introductions. I'll start. My name is Alana Gruce, and I am one of the recruiting specialists here at Highline, and I recruit for kind of half of our schools and half of our departments. Luis Pena is our other recruiting specialist who also does another half of our schools as well. But we're here to kind of be the direct liaison between you and our career opportunities within the district. So we're always happy to help and support.
And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eber Molina. I am one of the recruitment and retention program managers. So I oversee two different programs for our district. One of them involves hiring teachers for the following school year, so that'd be the 25-26. I also oversee just internships. So if any of you have seeked an internship or like a student teaching placement or a preclinical placement, then that's I'm probably the individual you'll meet with. And also on our team, who's also a recruitment retention program manager, is Shirley Siloui. And so she oversees our Grow Your Own programs, which you will learn a little bit more about in this presentation.
Awesome. And so as we go on today, if you guys want to go ahead too in the chat, put in maybe kind of the positions that you are interested in, and maybe a little bit of what you're hoping to learn today. As we go through the presentation, I'll keep an eye on that to make sure we're addressing most of your questions throughout of that as well. So perfect. So next, I don't know how familiar you all are with Highline Public Schools, but maybe by a show of either in the chat or the hands, how many of you have heard of Highline before or our district area? I only see Anthony's camera, so I might have to look at the chat. Megan, awesome, you have. Addison. Okay, so you have some haves, some have-nots. All right, well, we're excited to tell you some things new today. Oh, Jim lives in Highline. Awesome. Perfect. Okay, so we have a good mix. So for those of you who aren't familiar, Highline Public Schools, we're located in the SeaTac area, so kind of in between Seattle and Tacoma, but realistically, I would say probably more Federal Way if you're really familiar with the area. And we make up 5 different communities. So unlike being just Tacoma Public Schools or Seattle Public Schools, we make up 5 of the surrounding cities, and that includes White Center, Burien, SeaTac, which is where the airport is, Normandy Park, and Des Moines. So we always usually say that if you've flown into the SeaTac airport, you've essentially flown into our district. So you've been around if you've been in that area. And our community is really unique in the fact that Highline is extremely diverse culturally, socioeconomically, linguistically. You'll see in the next slide here that we do have a good amount of languages spoken within our district, and that does come into play with some of the programs that we do offer. And then, of course, a rich connection to our land and history. We do have a whole Highline History Museum as well that kind of goes over how we came to be the community that we are. And we do have a lot of community partners as well that partner directly with our students for a lot of unique learning opportunities as well. So here's a little bit more of a breakdown of what it actually looks like within our school district. So we have, I believe we've broken over 100 languages spoken within our district. And so our most popular languages or our most spoken will be Spanish, Vietnamese, and Somali. And so we do have dual language programming, which we'll talk about soon, that actually addresses those three languages that students are able to opt into to learn. Some go all the way up to high school level, and then some are just starting within our elementary level. So again, 5 communities served, shy of 18,000 students going from 5 all the way up to 21 years old within our programs. 35 schools and programs, 2,800 staff. About 61% of our students qualify for free or reduced price meals. 31% speak non-English as a first language, and then 15% qualify for special education services. So this is a snapshot of the students that are where our students are coming from and the backgrounds that they're coming from, which is very critical. We always are looking for staff and faculty, whether you're inside of the classroom or outside of the classroom, who are able to come into our community and able to thrive within the setting, but also offer some additional support for students who may be needing that. Then a quick check-in, how are we doing so far? All right, perfect, thank you. All right. Okay, so the Highline Promise. The Highline Promise, you can see, I don't think it's actually on my, oh, it is on my lanyard. We have it on our lanyard. You'll see it in all of our schools. It's something that we hold accountability for no matter where you work within this district. Whether you're a bus driver, a kitchen helper, a teacher, a paraeducator, you all have a duty when you come to Highline to help fulfill our promise. And our promise is that every student in Highline Public Schools is known by name, strength, and need, and graduates prepared for the future they choose. Our promise with our new superintendent was updated to include that future they choose portion. They get used to say prepared for citizenship and success, or citizenship and college and citizenship, something along those lines. But we've reworked it to future they choose, as it highlights a really important path and vision that we're wanting for our students. If anybody wants to share in the chat or unmute themselves out loud, is there anything about the promise that personally you connect with, or anything that stands out to you that you resonate with?
Yeah, sure. Knowing kids by name is fantastic. I mean, to know they need that connection, that they see you as a person as opposed to an Autobot in the hallway that way.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I love the Autobot reference as well. But exactly, I think when you have a school district as culturally diverse as ours, it's really important to make sure that names are part of our identities. We want to make sure those are honored, and that students feel we can, if we get anything right, we can at least make sure that we start with your name. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. All right. And then again, you'll see our promise again in the future. One hot tip is that if you are working with as you're applying to Highline, start reflecting on the promise, as you may be asked questions within an interview about how you connect with it. So it is good to start now thinking of how the promise aligns with your own personal teaching values. All right, so the promise is kind of our overall vision, our goal that we foresee for Highline. And our strategic plan that you see in front of you is our way of trying to reach our promise, ways of trying to fulfill our promise, if you will, kind of like the road to there. And our strategic plan is updated every 5 years based on what the new goals and needs are of the district. These were updated, I want to say about 2 years ago, roughly. So these are relatively in the newer stage. And these are our 4 bold goals for the next few years. Starting with culture of belonging, a culture where all are welcomed, valued, and safe. Again, we have folks from so many different walks of life. Some folks who have lived in Highline their entire lives, some folks who've recently immigrated to the Highline community, or some who are just, from Washington, but maybe a different side. So we want to make sure that no matter where their starting point is, where they're coming from, where their language, skill set is at. We want to make sure everyone feels that they belong within Highline Public Schools. And that goes for our staff as well. We want to make sure everyone finds their place here. Second is going to be through innovative learning. Innovative learning is, we want to make sure our students have academic experiences that engage and empower them, but also challenge them in very unique ways. Highly recommend, if you don't already, to follow us on LinkedIn or Instagram, Facebook, whatever your social media of choice is. We do highlight a lot of student stories on there. We have a few videos actually that just our communications team just posted of some of the unique opportunities our students are getting to engage into. I know one that I just saw earlier today is our students who are prepping to be teachers themselves. And so they're talking about their experiences at one of our choice schools, about getting the opportunity to get to practice what being a teacher looks like for them. We also have our Maritime Academy, which focuses on maritime-based careers. They partner with the local ports in our area, to our aviation, Raisbeck Aviation High School that partners with Boeing for aviation-based careers. So really cool stuff that our students are getting into engage in. And definitely check those out online if you haven't done so already. The third goal is going to be bilingual and biliterate. So again, touching on that piece that we want to make sure all of our students graduate with multicultural skills so they are able to communicate and build relationships across cultures, especially, working with those who are maybe from cultures different than their own. A big way that we do that, again, is through our dual language programming, where students have the opportunity to gain a seal of biliteracy if they choose to do so. But being bilingual and biliterate, we want to make sure our students are getting the opportunity to engage in those skills. And then lastly is future ready. So our students explore possibilities and develop mindsets that prepare them for a changing future. Our secondary success team starts students in future ready programming starting as early as 7th grade. 7th grade, they start off by doing career exploration, where we have folks come into the schools. They get to rotate to different community partners to learn about careers that they offer. Through 8th grade and 9th grade, they get to do internships, to site visits, where we actually, bring them out to different sites that they get to explore opportunities. They get to work directly with some of our local community colleges for direct mentorship and support. So from 7th grade all the way to 12th grade, there is specific programming based on their grade level that helps prepare them for graduation. So we want to make sure that when students get to that point where they're ready to, move on from Highline, that they have the tools and the skills that they need to make whatever decisions that they would like for the future that they choose. So we have a really awesome team dedicated to doing that. All right, so that was a quick overview of Highline, who we are, and kind of some of the defining features of our district. Any questions or anything so far before we kind of transition to the employment side? Probably why most of you are here. Doing good? All right. If there are questions, definitely feel free to let us know. But okay, so path to questions. Oh, awesome. Thank you, Megan. Paths to teaching in Highline. So there are three primary ways if you're interested in becoming a teacher that you can enter into the district. The first and most common way is going to be through general site-based hiring, right? So that's each of our schools will release vacancies for the upcoming school year starting in May. And then you'll apply to each school as you would with any vacancy. You apply, and then those roll out throughout the summer and then into the fall, depending on what the job is, and we'll continue to hire throughout for the next school year. So that operates pretty much how you'd expect, but those are often released starting in May. You may see a full trickle in early April or late April. Do they ever post before May? So yeah, we do have, I kind of answered it, but for sure I'll clarify. We, from time to time for the upcoming school year, we'll have positions posted possibly in April, but most of them are released in May. So we have all of our data of what our projections are for the year posted. And that's for certificated roles. For classified roles, if you're not really interested in being in the classroom, then those are posted year round. So those come and go as the hiring manager posts them. But yeah, great question. Now, the time that is a little bit different is going to be through our Cadre Early Hiring Program, which is designed for our hard to fill content areas. Every year, hard to fill can vary, but consistently our hard to fill areas include dual language, world language, and special education. So we do have our early hiring process. Abera's going to dive into that a little bit in a moment about what that process looks like. But we do have an early process for folks interested in teaching in those endorsement areas. And then we do have also grow your own pathways. These are pathways where we're hoping, our goal is to be able to build teachers from within Highline as well. We have some awesome paraeducators who would be awesome teachers, and maybe that's a route they would like to pursue. We do partner with Western Washington University for our dual language and special education endorsements for paraeducators, where they'll be able to start as a para and then they'll go to school part-time, where they'll get their teaching certification and be able to teach within dual language or special education. And then for teachers who are already endorsed in a content area like biology, maybe you're endorsed in history, but you're not a certified teacher yet. This won't apply to you guys necessarily, but in case you hear folks, we do have a master's teaching fellows program that allows folks to get certified as teachers while working part-time as a sub with us. So lots of information there, but the biggest thing is to make sure that for our Grow Your Own programs, we do have some pathways for folks who are not yet certified within our school district that are hoping to become certified. And then Sadie, I see you have a question.
Hi, yes, I just had a question. So
Yeah.
if your degree program, say you're going to finish in June, so your licensure, you wouldn't have your license to teach until like June, right?
Mhm.
Would you be able to start applying to open positions before that time?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, we have a ton of recent grads in June that are able to apply. And yes, you are able to apply so long as your certifications are in before you start. We
Okay,
usually want to make sure that, we like to make sure that you have it in by July. August is kind of cutting it. So we have to get to the school, the first day of school in September. But yes, so long as you're able to get that ready to go by the start of school, then you're solid.
okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. And then with there, I'm going to have Amira go ahead and move forward with diving a little bit deeper into some of these programs.
Perfect. Thank you, Alana. Well, as everybody knows, Alana just did an overview of what our hiring looks like. And so I'm just going to dive a little bit deeper into our cadre early hiring program. She just spoke about just what are the type of endorsements or type of experience that we're looking for in a candidate. And that typically ranges from new teachers to experienced like veteran teachers. The biggest thing that we're looking into is that they have like a special education endorsement, or they have the ability to teach a world language Spanish class, or or if they're interested, they can also apply to be a dual language teacher. So that could be anything like dual language at the elementary level, where you kind of teach everything in a 50-50 style. So you would teach 50% of your class in English and then the other 50% in Spanish. And so that would be either in Spanish or Vietnamese. Spanish is a program that we have up to 12th grade, so you can graduate with the dual language proficiency. And then Vietnamese, I believe, is up until middle school, but rolling into high school as we get through those years. Now, if you're applying for a dual language role, you would be required to then do an ACTFL test. Essentially, this just gauges your proficiency. And what we're always looking for is something that is around advanced, low, or higher. And that's to teach any role within our district. And our college early hiring program, typically the biggest thing you want, our interviews is only 30 minutes. You don't have to do a teaching demo. And then once we do that, we do also conduct phone references. So big advice is make sure you have phone references that are solid, that are going to kind of back you up and speak highly of you. Here you'll see a timeline. So currently what we're in is we just ending the month in January. So we have been doing screenings. We have been coordinating interviews already. And we're going to be kicking off interviews at our winter job fair, which is, if those of you are in the area, it's going to be February 7th. February 8th, which is a Saturday, and that's from 12 to 3 p.m. And then throughout this month, between February and April, is when we're going to be doing some more interviewing. We're going to be doing some more screening. And I think what sets us up uniquely about is our cadre early hiring program is that we can give contracts out between January and early May. which, like Alana mentioned earlier, a lot of school districts, which you'll know, aren't going to be posting those positions until May. So this just allows you to kind of have an idea for folks that are out of state. They want to have a place to go, or they want to have a job lined up before they move in the summer. And so our College Early Hiring Program is always a perfect option for that, since it allows you to kind of secure a role for the 25-26 school year. All right, dual language at Highline Public Schools. So like I mentioned earlier, our program structure is K through 12. So 50% of their instruction is in English, 50% is in Spanish or Vietnamese, and that's going to be true up until you get to high school, but it's going to switch out because in elementary, right, it's gen ed, so the teacher's going to be able to do both things. But once we get to high school, the students are then split off to classes. Like they're going to have a social studies class that's fully in Spanish, right? It's fully immersed in Spanish. Or they'll have a science or like a biology class that's fully in Spanish. So the way we hire folks is going to change a little bit, because now what we require them to have is an endorsement in science or biology or physics, and then the fluency to be able to teach in that specific language. So some of the goals that that our school district has is honoring, our bilingual and biliterate, and demonstrate positive cross-cultural attitudes and behaviors. I think it's one of the coolest things is I've been able to witness just some of the students in our dual language Spanish classes, from different backgrounds, cultures, and ethnicities, and they're all speaking Spanish with each other, and that involves like slang and just understanding each other, and it's just a beautiful thing to be able to witness. One last fact is we are the only school district that has a fully developed K through 12 DL pathway. Some of the schools in Washington State have it up until elementary. They're working on middle school, and then we have others that have up until 10th grade that haven't fully fleshed out their K through 12 program. So we have lots of experience when it comes to our dual language program. And special education is also a big one. So as you may know, lots of school districts out in the nation and the state are always hiring special education teachers. And this is just an explanation of some of the resources we have. Anything, so about the fourth bullet point and below are some of the specific programs that we offer within our special education department. And I'll go ahead and jump into some of those a little later, what they mean. But first, talking about the family liaison. So some of the things that individual does, we have multiple of them. They are here to support the parents and families of Highline students that engage in special education services. So that could be things like assist and educate families in special education system, like IEP processes. They attend IEP meetings with families. They essentially advocate for participation in the process. And it's just somebody to have a partner or somebody to talk to, that's a good liaison between the family as well as the school. They support language accessibility. So there's plenty of different things that our family liaisons do. And it's always just kind of great to have them within our schools. So moving into some of the different programs. So we're just going to go ahead with our community-based services. So this is a program that is more restrictive, and it's a placement on the continuum of special education services, and is designed for students that are aged between 18 to 21 who require more intensive levels of instruction, supervision, and post-secondary transitions. So students receive specifically designed instruction learning vocational skills, functional, basic life skills, social skills by engaging in real life experiences, and then students spend part of the day in the classroom setting. Other things could be like an integrated kindergarten. So this is an inclusive program for kindergarten students with specifically designed instruction. Give me one sec here. Through modifications and adaptations to generate general education curriculum. So we have all sorts of different types of systems, and then we'll be moving forward to have these kind of fully integrated to where all our teachers are able to participate or handle different cases of students within their classrooms. That may be a student who is in our DHH program or in our IK program or our ILC. So eventually that is what the future is looking like for Highline Public Schools and our special education program. All right, so then moving into education systems or educator systems of support. So as we know, everybody who is typically new to a district or even new to teaching, we know that it's important that they have special access to, to mentors or to different levels of support. And so every individual who is new to the district or new to teaching, we have a great group of professionals called our peer mentors. Our peer mentors are folks who have years of experience teaching, and they provide mentorship to all those folks, right? It could be things like culturally responsive and inclusive teaching practices, standards-based instruction, classroom culture and environment. It's essentially somebody you can kind of lean on and work with. And they're going to be there to assist you throughout your first 3 years. And I believe your first year is more hands-on work with your peer mentor, and then it tapers off as you get into your third year. New staff liaison. So those are folks that you're going to be working with at your school district. Could be like an office manager, could be another teacher. They're going to be able to provide you with like support with building logistics, like how to access the copier, the printer, what specific door isn't you can't enter or that has an interesting gimmick to get into. They also, just assist the teachers throughout the whole building experience. So it'll help you find different like resources that you might need. Building coaches, so it could be things like multilingual coordinators, literacy coaches, and then central office specialists are folks that we have at our central office that are there to provide specialized support on curriculum, instructional resources, and other strategies. Any questions so far? We're covering a lot of information. Cool. All right, let's go ahead and continue. So our peer mentor program, so this is essentially a little bit more of a deeper dive as to what our peer mentors can assist with. So the three main roles is offering support, creating challenge, and facilitating professional vision. So it could include things like videotaping, classrooms while you're teaching. It could be curriculum and lesson development, Highline discussions. It could be somebody kind of bounce ideas off of so they can co-plan and co-teach a lesson. And they're there to support you throughout your first 3 years within Highline School District. Cool. Moving into getting hired at Highline. So these are going to be some of the tips that we've, as recruiters, put together, and some things that we noted that would go a long way in helping you getting hired at Highline. First one is knowing our district. So we spoke about our promise, we spoke about our vision, talked about the goals. Are you familiar with them? Like, you don't have to be familiar with them in the sense of like know them word for word, but be familiar with what they are and how do they align to your own mission, vision, and goals. Which ones do you identify with? Which one do you think you can speak on? It's not going to be like an exam or pop quiz type of style. It's just how do you align with those? Next thing is clean your resume and cover letter. Make sure your resume and cover letter are easy to follow. Clean formatting is always recommended. Biggest thing I always see, make sure it's addressed to the right person, right? If you're applying for multiple jobs at multiple school districts, it's okay to reuse that same cover letter, but make sure you change that up to where you say, I'm applying to Highline Public Schools, and you're not submitting one that says I'm applying to Seattle Public Schools. Thank you so much for being a part of our presentation, and if you have any questions, just reach out to us. Edit and review application materials. Just ensure you are reviewing those, having other people look at those as well. And then, nowadays you have ChatGPT, you have all sorts of different systems that you're able to use to kind of review that if you can't find another individual to review like your application materials. And ensuring that you have all the right information for your references, because what happens is as soon as you submit an application and you add your references in there, they're going to get sent an email to fill out some sort of reference services for you. So make sure you get that information up to date, because it could be kind of like a roadblock where we're trying to figure out who's this individual, we're reaching out to you. So make sure that your contact information is updated for them. Then practice interviewing. If you already haven't, start signing up for those mock interviews. Speak to folks who handle interviews like hiring managers. If you need some advice, we're always great to bounce ideas off of you. We've sat in a bunch of interviews. So reach out to recruiters, reach out to hiring managers. Lastly, it's participate in district learning and hiring opportunities exactly like this. We have info sessions that we do every month, application workshops that we do also every month. So sign up for those types of things and get familiar with the folks that are hiring, that are essentially the faces of that district, which are primarily folks like us, recruiters. All right.
All right. So lots of information. We're just gonna throw it at you guys. And so, any questions, thoughts, anything that wasn't clear that we had already went through? Thank you for those who joined us. Sadie, good rest of your day. Jim, yeah, go ahead.
Hi, yeah. So, I am, like I said, local to Highline. I've recently come back from living abroad for quite a while. I don't speak Vietnamese or Spanish. My goal is to teach speaking English. Um, I'm not looking for a certification in EAL, but I am looking for a completion of my master's program using the internship that is the student teaching. Um, I've been attempting to join up since October. Is it that I am not bilingual in these languages that I'm being overlooked, do you think? Do you think that it's just that everybody's full? Any ideas as to what might be going on there?
Yeah, great question, Jim. So being bilingual isn't necessarily a requirement for any of our roles, except for the ones that are dual language. Dual language roles are separate from our general education roles, just because the structure is completely different than our general education classes. So being bilingual is not a requirement for our general education teachers, so that shouldn't be being used in the decision. Sometimes having an ELO background or something can be useful, but I have not seen it be used as a way to really, you know, completely disregard a candidate over another if the qualifications and everything are the same. Um, what I would say is that this time of year is kind of weird when it comes to um, hiring, just because a lot of them are going to be leave replacement roles or roles that were left unfilled from the summer that we're just trying to get somebody in for the rest of the year, which just means that usually the hiring managers are looking for somebody who's able to come in, who has that experience, who could jump in and get started. In those experiences, if you haven't had that direct experience in the middle of the school year, we might be more likely to go with someone who has. Now, as we get to May, that's when it's going to be a little bit more flexible because you have whole summer to prepare. We get a lot of recent grads that time of year. And so that time of year is going to be a little bit, I would say, more, you'll have a lot more options to choose from at that time of year, starting in May and April, and in the summer going into the fall. So it could just be that this time of year, we're really looking for something very specific to jump in and get started. And then I would say in May is when we're going to have a better idea of, kind of roles that people are able to kind of take their time and get training into. So hopefully that kind of helps. You're always welcome to email recruiting@highlineschools.org. That's how you get to our team. We're happy to sit down and kind of go over your resume and figure out some options for you too.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I certainly will have more, but I don't want to take up too much time thinking about this right now. Gotcha.
Yeah, no, thank you for your question. Um, were there any other
I,
questions that we're having?
I had a quick one, if that's
Yeah,
okay. So with applicants applying for positions, and I guess it does tie in a little bit to Jim's question, but how can candidates potentially stand out from the crowd and get you to that potential interview? Assuming you all get a large number of applicants for certain positions. Is there something specific that maybe jumps out for you all during the application process that might push somebody through to the interview stage?
yeah. I would say there are a couple things. On our application, we have two equity-based questions that we ask applicants to submit on the application. Those equity questions, oh, I meant to have like what those are specifically on here. You wonder if we could pull them up at some point. But the equity questions are a really great way to connect to Highline. I know we see a lot of times in our winter job fair, we have a lot of interviews going on at that time, and we get a lot of folks, a lot of recent grads too, that speak a lot more on their technical skills. I know how to do this. I know how to do that. I know how to formulate a lesson. I know how to do these things, which is great. We assume that if you have your certification, we want to make sure you know how to teach. What really stands out is knowing how those skills are really going to prepare you specifically for Highline. How do you connect directly to Highline? Our school has a lot of students who are very high need, students who are high risk in a lot of ways, students who come from various different cultural backgrounds, language abilities. Some students, again, as I mentioned, who've been in Highline their whole life, and then some who've recently gotten here not too long ago, which creates a very unique teaching environment. And so it's not just the skill set that you have. We want to make sure when you come into Highline, how can you connect with a diverse pool of students? How are you able to connect culturally, linguistically, socioeconomically with our students? Because our students are really looking for, and they've said this to us directly, for like, we want students that reflect, or teachers that reflect where we come from. And so we're looking for staff that, have those experiences as well to connect with students. So any way that you can really find a direct connection to our vision, to our promise, to our goals, that's really helps us understand that you would be able to thrive in our school environment.
Thank
So I
you.
would say, yeah, excuse me, that was definitely a bigger, I would say a bigger one to stand out. Other than that, I think just any unique, like giving more examples of what you've actually done in like your student teaching or your classrooms, using more kind of descriptive language. We'll see like I collaborated, or I'm really worked hard on being in this classroom, or I've been in this type of classroom. But really explain, what did you do? What kind of students did you work with? What were the outcomes of that? Those explanations really help us better understand your teaching style, and that can help with hiring managers better understanding which schools you'd be best for. For example, White Center Heights, they have all three of our dual language programs available. So their students are going to be kind of different, have different needs than maybe our North Hill, which operates very differently than those schools. So it also helps us figure out where is going to be a good placement for you by knowing a bit more about what your teaching style is like.
Awesome.
Perfect. Yeah, great question.
Any
Anything?
other questions?
Yeah, awesome. Glad that's helpful. So, outside of our Q&As, what we usually do is we do kind of an application walkthrough, not or kind of our job page walkthrough. So you kind of know where to start if you want to get started. Would you find that helpful, or would you like more time for questions? Want to make sure you leave today with what you needed from this. Okay,
I
Megan's a
would say
yes.
yes. I would say yes, absolutely. Especially with it being recorded too. Let's
Yeah.
certainly do that.
Okay. Perfect. Um, let's see. Let me if I can. You got it. Okay. If you click through, I could do some of the the narrating. All right. So we're just going to walk you through. I find working within recruiting, um, sometimes it's not always obvious where you're supposed to go when applying to school districts. And Highline uses the frontline application system, which a lot of schools within Washington State use it too. Um, and so you might be familiar with it if you've applied with us once, you might see it again. And then Azra, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. Thank you for joining us. Hope you have a good day. Um, okay, let's go ahead and just jump into our Jobs Hub. So when you go to jobs.highlineschools.org, I'm going to put that in the chat here. That is going to be our Jobs Hub. That is kind of our main page of all things job within Highline that you'll need to know. You'll see those blue dots there. That's going to give you kind of your overview of the important things you'll need. That's going to include our application, benefits if you're curious, what it's like living within the Highline district overall if you're not from the area, salaries, all of those are posted and they should be updated for the 24-25 school year. And then in May, if any adjustments are made for the following school year, they'll be updated there too. A little bit about how contracts works, calendar, and then information to contact us. So that's kind of the full view. Depending on what your questions are, you might find your answer within one of those blue dots. And then if you scroll down a little bit lower, you'll see featured jobs and events. These are going to be specific jobs that are kind of, need some additional recruiting or might have some additional unique requirements that, are particular that we're really hoping to get the word out about for our assistant principals, maybe specialist roles, things like that. So you'll see those posted on featured jobs. And then if you want to scroll actually up, we do have our career calendar on there too. So if you're ever interested in employment-based events, those can be found on the calendar too. But up top, if you see current openings, when you're ready to apply, you'll click there. And then that is going to take you to our frontline kind of application website. So it's going to look like this. So you're going to be greeted with a welcome page that just gives you some important things to know. Very important to know, all of our jobs do close at 11:30 PST, not 11:59. That has gotten a few people a few times. So you had to make a special note, make sure that if you're applying, 11:30 is the time that that'll be closing on the closing date, which you'll see in a moment. Also really important to note that I think I better mentioned earlier, references are immediately contacted once you submit your application. They're contacted via email through a survey. They're just sent a confidential survey that we ask them to fill out. We need 2 of your references to fill those out in order to move forward with the application. We also do 2 phone references minimum as well. So 2 surveys, 2 phone references. We'd like to mention that because if you're applying and maybe your current supervisor doesn't know that and you put them down, please note we will be reaching out. So I don't want there to be any surprises. They will hear from us pretty quickly. So keep that in mind. And then again, if you need support, our recruiting email is there. We're always happy to help. And then some of our upcoming employment-based info sessions, application workshops that we do in person. We actually have one tonight. This is more geared towards folks. Info sessions are virtual, which we're doing one now, but the application workshops are in person. We may expand those virtually in the future, depending on how popular they become. But for now, they are in person, where we sit down and work on your application with you. Okay, so with this is kind of our big page of where you're going to find vacancies. So what we'll start is if you want to go to certificated non-admin, very obvious name that you're going to go to. You'll click on that and that's going to give you a list of all of our positions that require certification, generally a ESA certification or a teaching certification. Those are listed here. This is updated daily. So you'll see, if you don't see something that fits for you now, you might see something later. Feel free to also email recruiting. We keep a list of folks who are interested in working at Highline but haven't found a job they want to apply for. I will directly send you vacancies that match your interest if it's something that you're looking for. So please reach out if Highline is the school district that you really want to work with. So these are going to be the list of our vacancies that we have currently for the current school year. This is going to include our cadre teacher cohort that we mentioned earlier, school nursing pool, school counselor. That's actually posted recently, so I'm curious about that one. Dual language, all of that good stuff. So if you want to go ahead and click on, let's do teacher secondary. Okay, so this teacher secondary is posted. This is a non-continuing role, so likely a leave replacement or something that's not going to follow through to the next year. Again, time of year makes it a little unique for these types of roles, but this is what you're going to see when you click on a vacancy. So you're going to see the position type, when it was posted, and when it closes. Again, 11:30 on February 6th is when that's going to close, and the location of what school it's going to be. Sometimes it'll say the specific school, and then sometimes it might say district-wide if it's an itinerant position where you're traveling to multiple schools. Then if you scroll down, you'll see more position information, what the salary scale is, when the start date is going to be. You'll see for this role, it has an end date, so that'll be the last day of this role. And then a summary of the position, what the basic requirements are. Usually for these roles, it'll be a teaching certification and any specific endorsements you'll need. And then a little bit about, sometimes it'll offer more about the specifics of the role. This is just Cascade is seeking a science teacher. Now, this doesn't give a ton of information. It is a quick overview. So if you're like, I have never heard of what this kind of teacher is, down at the bottom right is if you click on that, that'll give you the full 2, 3, 4 page job description. So if you're not sure what it means, click on that and that's going to break it down for you. That's going to tell you everything you need to know, what you're going to be doing, and it's going to be for the position itself. There may be some additional unique things for the school, in which case the hiring manager will reach out to you and let you know that if you decide to move forward, or they'll tell you about that in the interview process. But this is where you can really get a deep dive of what you're going to be doing in that role. Okay. So if you go back, the last kind of bit I like to mention is you see this and you're ready to apply. That red apply button in the right corner is where you can go ahead and start your application. There, usually you'll get this pop-up right here. If you've already started an application with us but have not finished it, it doesn't even have to be the one you just clicked on. You can log in to an existing account and just use your username and password. What's really cool about this is that once you create your login for Highline, or once you've applied to Highline, you don't have to fill all that information out again. You're essentially just creating a profile. Whenever there's a job that opens up that you're really interested in, you'll log back into your application. There's a tab that'll say vacancy desired. You get to check all the positions that you want to be considered for. So if there's 5 jobs that you're really liking, click all 5 and save, and then all that your information will be sent to the hiring manager to review for each of those roles. Okay, so you don't have to do a whole new application. You just log in, say I want to apply for these jobs now, save and submit, and you're good to go. Caveat, that does also mean that if you submit that 5 times, your references are going to be notified 5 times that you're applying for these jobs. So be mindful of that. Just want to keep that out there, that they are notified each time you submit a new request, as references are going to be needed for each hiring manager that is considering you for their roles. And then the last thing is you see import from another account. As I mentioned before, Highline does use the Frontline system, but lots of other school districts in our area does too. So if you've applied to Kent School District, I think they use Frontline, in our area, and you already created a username and password, you can import your username and password from a previous account, so you don't have to do that all over again. So just an option if you've worked with another district before that has used Frontline, you don't have to start all over if you don't want to. And then, yeah, this is kind of the quick overview. I guess you kind of started it, of the employment application. More tabs will populate as you select a vacancy. So once you create your username, you'll see more tabs pop up under that navigation side that might have additional questions based on the vacancy. You might need to, have different certifications you need to submit depending on the role. So all of that will populate as you go. Okay. And I think that is the bulk. Anything that I missed that you? Okay. Was that helpful? Do we have questions about any of that?
That was fantastic.
Thank you, RJ.
That was super helpful. And like I said, with this being recorded too, that'll be helpful for people to go back and reference that in the recording.
Yeah.
So we certainly appreciate that. But I just want to thank the both of you for jumping in and presenting. We certainly appreciate it. I know that we do have a large population of WGU active students and alumni in the area. So was really excited for you all to come in and present. And I know our students and alum will get a lot out of this moving forward. So certainly appreciate you both jumping in and sharing a little insight into the school district.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, RJ. Addison, I did see your question. LinkedIn profiles, they can be helpful. I would say they tend to be more so with our classified roles. We have project managers and people in our business services and whatnot, where we may use that a little bit more just to get a better idea of your experiences and background. For certificated teaching positions, they aren't as necessary, but don't let that be a reason why you're not working on your LinkedIn. Do whatever feels right for you. But we're primarily going to go based off of your application materials. Actually, we are going to go 100% off of your application materials. So don't feel like before you apply, you have to get your LinkedIn straight. It's really just used supplementally if we don't have everything that we need to know from you. Your LinkedIn may be looked at. It also is for the recruiting team. We use LinkedIn to find folks. For again more so our classified roles, because we want to find like certain specific skill sets or backgrounds or experiences. We may source through LinkedIn and find folks that way. But for teaching roles, I think you're pretty solid if that's not fully up to date. Awesome question. Okay, well, I think that is everything. Thank you again, RJ, for helping us set this up and for all of you being here. Recruiting@highlineschools.org. If you have any questions, please let us know. We're always happy to help. We have a full team of 4 that is ready to answer your questions. So feel free to reach out if anything comes up.
Thank you,
Yes,
everyone.
thank you again.
Indeed,
Awesome.
thanks. And you'll certainly be hearing from me. Appreciate you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jim. Sweet. You guys
Awesome.
have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, you as well.
Likewise.
All right.